So in this video, we're going to be looking at two different types of software, open source software and proprietary software. And you've got a few examples there. Come back to the end and see if you can identify which is which. So open source software is when the source code is freely available. So if you think about any programs you've coded in Python, your code is your source code. So any software where they can see the programming code is defined as open source, and users are allowed to modify the code as long as they share it under the same terms as the original code that they had. Famous examples of open source software include Linux, Mozilla Firefox, Android, and one of the main features of it is there's a strong online community where users want to help to improve that software. So if there's a bug in it, programmers will volunteer their time to sort of fix that. So, why do we like it? Because it's normally free. There are some associated costs in terms of support, but the actual software itself is free. Another massive benefit is it encourages collaboration. So like I just mentioned in the last slide, a pool of programmers from all over the world can develop this piece of software for the greater good. And you as a user, you can get the source code for a piece of software and think, actually, it would be much better if it had this feature. And you can add the code to include that feature so you can make the software fit their needs. Again, there's likely to be more creativity because you've got all these programmers working on it, which in most cases tends to result in reliable and secure software. However, there are disadvantages associated with open source software as well. And one of those is the limited user documentation. Not the case for everything, but for most. And for smaller projects, you might not get this big pool of programmers working together to improve it. So you may not get updates on the smaller projects. There's no customer support or warranty, although there are, in some cases, the opportunity to buy those. And the most obvious of all, if you've created a piece of software, your competitors can see your source code if you make it open source. So they're then going to do what they need to do with it. Okay, so that is open source software. Moving on to proprietary, or sometimes known as closed source software. This is software that's developed by a company for profit. So source code is not available, closely guarded secret. If you are paying the salary of a team of programmers to develop a piece of software, you don't want that source code getting out for free. You will tend to pay for this kind of software. If you think about Microsoft Office, Photoshop, Flowall, there's loads of different programs that you pay for. Those will all be closed source software. And most businesses use this type of software rather than open source. Not all. And when we had a class discussion about this, a lot of you are using open source software for office programs and that kind of thing. So the advantages of paying for your software is that you will get that support. So you'll get the warranty, you'll get user documentation showing you how to use it. You would hope extensive testing has been carried out and that any updates that need to happen will come through. We talked about examples where this wasn't always the case in class, but in the most instances, it should have been extensively tested. And companies will tend to buy this because it's cheaper than asking a software developer to create you a piece of software. Microsoft Office is a general purpose piece of software with all those different programs. You might not use many of the tools, but as long as the ones that you need are there, it's more cost effective than asking a software developer to build you your own piece of software. It can be expensive. Look into the costs of the Adobe suite, the Office suite. Like we've just said, it might not fit your requirements exactly. You might have to work around it. And sometimes companies can be a bit sneaky. and they might not maintain older versions of software because they want you to buy the latest version. So I'm going to stop talking there. I would like you to pause the video, have a go at the questions, make sure you're happy with all the content before watching it again if you need.